To think that I've been making this drawing for like 3 years is crazy. 3 years ago is when I decided that I wanted to come back into drawing. I mean, it hasn't been like 3 years of not doing anything, but at the same time it was like 3 years of like on and off. And the funny part is that I don't think I've done more than 10 sessions. Like every time I commit to do it, I spend a lot of time doing it, and then I get a little bit burned out, and then I stop. Hello and welcome back. Today we're taking a look at a drawing that I haven't finished in a long time. I've been procrastinating enough that I have forgotten how to do some of the things that I did before. So here's the drawing. Okay, boom, no. So here's the drawing. This is one of the replicas from one of the posters from Howl's Moving Castle by Studio Ghibli by Hayao Miyazaki, right? This piece is quite important for me because it was a piece that I decided to make when I wanted to go back into coloring. My entire life I've been very into coloring. I'm not that good at drawing though, but coloring is quite like one of my passions. And for the first time, I thought I could understand values. And values are one of the most important, if not the most important thing in coloring, right? So I decided to take on a very dynamic picture that could bring the worst of me. And as you can see, the original piece has something very interesting. The textures, very, very complicated to do by hand in coloring pencils. And coloring pencils are honestly my favorite medium. That's probably gonna change at some point, but right now it's coloring pencils. So with this piece, I actually delved a lot into experimentation, and I tried so many different things, and I was so happy with it. But because the piece was so much to take on, I procrastinated for a long time. There is something funny, and is that right now we're going through a heat wave. So in this room right now is 27 degrees apparently. The rest of the video you will 100% hear the fan going on like crazy. We do what we can to survive. Forgotten techniques that I've used. I remember that I was using a blunt knife at some point. I pre-painted everything in watercolors, so in the back I have something of set colors so the highlights could be brought up at some point. It didn't work out that well. The watercolors were nice and everything. You can see a little bit in the borders here, like the watercolors really brought a lot about it, right? And it's nice and it's cool. I used the colors that were in the original image, and yeah, they're nice. The thing is, when bringing them up again, when scratching off the coloring pencils, they don't come out as well. The main color is burnt sienna for the body. So wherever I have to put an undertone that is, for example, too opaque to be like the real color of the body, which is the burnt sienna, I put a burnt sienna undertone under, because it's still the same kind of metal. I mean, this is all in my mind, right? Because the idea of the Howl's Moving Castle, it comes from everywhere. It is growing, evolving, it's not all the same piece. But for this piece that I want to test, I will put burnt sienna under every single part of metal. I also have in physical, because I noticed that the printed version and the digital version are quite different. So I keep both for reference. The digital version has a lot of like the same undertones. Maybe that's where I took the idea from the burnt sienna. But yeah, like, it is so different, but yeah, there is a lot of richness in the yellows. There is a bunch of like blue that is absolutely beautiful. So that one I try to keep at hand, because this is closer to what I'm trying to do. But at the same time, I want to keep some of the consistency of the digital piece that I found in the internet, right? That's why I also keep the digital, because I think this one gives me value reference and the digital gives me consistency references, right? I can see where the colors can go together. I can see where I can put them a little bit more mellow, and I can see the little variations in like the greens and the yellows that I have to put in some tones of wood. So in that sense, digital. In this one, it's just color and beauty. One of the things that I discovered last time is that pieces, like there's a natural way of dividing itself and defining its shape. So what I mean is, every time my pen comes close to one of the lines, my pen stops like a little bit before. And that creates like a space where later I can put some highlights or some shadows just to define the piece without having to mark everything with black at the end. That is the way that I used to draw when I was a kid. In school, I never follow any tutorials. In school, I just took some color pencils, of course not as nice as this ones, but I used to take the color pencils and start painting with them, not drawing, but making blobs and everything, and doing different gradients and things like that until I knew how to make some materials, and like, it was very cool. It was insanely cool. And I remember one thing about drawing when I was a kid, and it's that when I put a lot of effort and a lot of details, like things like this, people would come with the same comment every time, and it was, whoa, someone has a lot of time. I think that was one of the biggest ego boosts ever. At the time, it was because simply we were all in the same school and we all had the same amount of time. The only difference is that they were focusing on class, I was drawing. Yeah, I loved when people told me like, whoa, you have a lot of time in your hands. And then I would show my drawings to the teachers that were mad at me because I was drawing during their classes instead of paying attention. And they would love it. They would be still mad, but they loved the drawings. And then that actually made me draw a lot. That is also how I got into music. At some point in my life, I lost all of my drawings. I got a bag stolen from me, and the bag contained the folder that I had all of my drawings in. I would carry all of my drawings inside of my backpack because I was proud and I was trying to show it to everyone, and I would carry like dozens of drawings at the same time. And one day I was walking very late in the street, and my backpack got stolen, and with it all of my drawings. It was so many drawings, a lot of anime, a lot of manga. I mean, not original, but you know, drawings that I would trace in order for me to color properly. All of that got lost. All of that, some very young dudes might have a collection of my drawings there in their living room or something, or maybe they threw it away. They probably thought, Wood has money in his backpack. Then they found a bunch of anime drawings, and they're like, oh, okay. Not that exciting now, huh? And after that, I had that moment of like not knowing if I had to remake them all or not. And I feel that is the time where I actually stopped drawing. I didn't know if it was worth it to make them all again. And I feel that at that point, I didn't have a lot of people to talk about it. So I never talked about it. So I just stopped drawing. I don't remember what I was doing or why I was walking, but I do remember that I lost them all that night. And I swear that has to be the point where I stopped. And of course, to come back, I had to pick the most difficult piece on earth, because somehow I had to prove to myself that I could do it. But hey, I know it might be toxic, but hey, I proved it. I proved it to myself, and now I'm happy. I feel like I'm starting slowly to realize that this is not a difficult drawing. It's just long. It takes a lot of patience, and that's about it. Especially because the scale of the picture for an A4 format is very small, which makes everything a little bit more difficult. If it was a higher, like a larger piece, I think the details wouldn't be that difficult. One of the things that I really found scary is that I've been doing this drawing for at least 3 years. It hasn't been constant. It's not like I have put like hundreds of hours into this drawing, right? It's a normal drawing. I get overwhelmed very fast. I get very, very overstimulated sometimes, and I feel like that takes me down. There is too many parts in too little space, and I feel like my main problem was that I didn't use a bigger paper from the beginning. Like, the drawing is not that difficult, and I feel that I could have like internalized everything a little bit better. But now I'm finding that I can do like incredibly small details, even in this size of paper, things that are like thinner than the tip of the color pencils that I'm using. That also means that I developed techniques for this, and I feel very happy about that, but it's very complicated. The attention span for this is becoming like shorter and shorter, so I feel like I need to train my attention span, and the only way to train it is by continuing. If I can finish this drawing in peace, I feel like I'm going to be like way ahead of like what I was trying to do before, but let's see. I'm getting more comfortable with the scale. I feel like even though it's very tiny, very, very detailed, I'm understanding that the edges develop in different ways. Also, each color has a different density. So I have to learn how strong can I put the pencil before a lot of color is deposited into the paper. I can see there is some strokes, some pen strokes. I remember that I had to keep every single pen to the utmost sharpness ever, to the point where I would do 5 or 10 strokes and then I would sharpen it again. The good part about that is that after 3 years, I don't remember how much I paid, and it was probably on sale. So that's good. I don't have to think about that anymore. Here you can see like what the idea of the drawing or of the coloring is, right? I took the ideas that make the drawing itself cool, like the textures, the mix of colors. I used like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 colors here, right? And then I'm trying to make it in my own style, that in this case is just a bunch of strokes. It's a style that I've been trying to do all over the piece. So for example, here you can see that I also did a bunch of strokes until they were like looking good. That's why I've been postponing this for so long. That is just to show you how much work goes into a piece that actually looks amazing, right? And this is just the beginning of the cylinder. I've been putting like an hour into this. It's absolutely insane. But now it's starting to look good. I do not have enough experience, and therefore it takes me like 3 times as long. Also, it's my first time coming back into this because I remember this lower part of the robot took me also like an hour. So this entire thing took me the same as this little thing. That huge thing took me the same as this little thing. But then again, this horrible tower took me like 3 hours, and it's nasty, it's terribly done. So this took me 1 hour, and now I'm a little bit tired. My back hurts. I need to eat something. I'll come back. This little house that I'm making here took like 15 minutes or something like that. The things around here, like each one of them took like 1 hour. So yeah, it takes time. It does take time. So it's just about the length of the project. It is nice to have like a big puzzle to solve that takes days, because otherwise it's going to be very disappointing when you solve it in 5 minutes. But there is a balance that has to be taken in count. And it is that balance about like, how difficult should the puzzle be before it drives people away? And I feel that I never take in consideration how bad a puzzle is going to be until I already went through the entire thing. Do I love it? Yes. Is it recommendable? No. I wouldn't recommend to anyone to do it in this way. It's a little bit stressful. And it is the exact same issue that I had with sewing. It is not about the dopamine that I get out of this. The dopamine comes at the very end. And I feel like that is what's enticing. Again, as I said in the sewing video, it is not even close to immediate satisfaction. It comes at the very, very end. I would say that the road towards the drawing is actually the most disappointing part, because it's where you find most of the mistakes, it's where you're correcting stuff. It's a true trust the process method, where like through your corrections, through your entire system, you're gonna find more and more things to do to fix your project, and at the end it's gonna be beautiful, but in the meantime it's not gonna look like the best drawing. I feel like when the task got like a little bit too encumbered with a lot of like little details and all those things, I feel like my brain was like, nah dude, and then I stopped doing it. It's that thing about procrastinating, right? As soon as the task is a little bit annoying, I feel like people tend to procrastinate, people including me, because if the task got that heavy that I started treating it as work. I understand why I stopped, because I do not work on Sundays. making the tasks as difficult as they can be is not the best solution for a hobby. But hey, we all do it and we all love it. I put one of my favorite hobbies into a deadline that I made by myself, and then I tried to keep up with it, but I was too strict with myself. That's why I left it, which is not fair for anyone, to be fair, but that's why it sat in the corner for like 2 years without being touched. The hilarious part about like finding all of the techniques and all of the things super fast is that there is no excuse now. There is absolutely no excuse to not do it. It is a passion of mine. Why would I stop doing it, right? I don't think I chose. I think it was obligations. I think it was responsibilities, which is okay, which is fine. It's just I want to be conscious about it. And I mean, at the end, the goal is just to have a nice peace, right? It is have a nice peace, have peace of mind, being happy about what I'm doing, and going back to a hobby that I know I can be better at. Like, I mean, of course, like the idea is to finish the drawing at some point, but right now it's like it's not essential right now. I could finish it in another year, right? But I think stability in a hobby is what makes people happy. Regarding hobbies, of course. Then you can see your progress, then you can see how you're advancing. You're doing amazing stuff. And at the end, I feel like making these videos shows me that I'm okay with not finishing the drawing today, and maybe not tomorrow. It's a big piece. Okay, I think I did it. I finished the piece. Yeah. Wow. There you go. So that's the piece. Gosh. Okay. So look at that beauty. Okay. So wow. In the camera, it looks way better than it is in real life. But just so you have an idea, there's a little bit of shine from the lamp. But oh my God, the wings, all the cold areas, all the warm areas, all the grass areas, everything looks amazing. Very detailed when it's like this. I want to show you, like, for example, this is how a normal color looks new. This is the same color after this drawing. I used almost half a pencil there. I used almost the same for the shadows, for the deep shadows, right? Like this is the pen that goes into this area. This is the pen that goes into basically all of this area. But yeah, keep in mind that this is the first piece that I did since I bought the pencils. I can show you a comparison. So this is the original super saturated version, and this is mine made by hand. They're quite similar. It's a completely different thing as well. I mean, they're similar to some level. It's just the blacks on this is so rich. But at the same time, that gave me a lot of opportunity to create detail here. While here you cannot see what's inside the mouth that well, here you can see everything that is inside the mouth. And I made like a mini factory there that I actually... Yeah, it's based on the original drawing, but it is not the original idea. Like, I changed a lot of stuff. What would I change? I mean, there is a big part of this, and it's that the sky here should blend with the image, like, very well, right? One of the main things that I would change is that not being consistent with it. I mean, that is the biggest thing. There is different techniques that I used here compared to what I use here. I actually, like, for some of these scratches, I use a blunt knife. I'm very satisfied. I'm very happy. I think I would consider doing it in a bigger paper, of course, and probably using the same medium. What's the next drawing gonna be, huh? Nah, that was it. That was woo! That was such a complicated piece. That was a crazy idea to begin with. As my first drawing going back into coloring, this is insane. This is insane to see. But I can also see that at some point I was a little bit like careless about some things. Maybe when things got a little bit too complicated, I started simplifying techniques. And I think it's just because it's such a long piece, right? I think it's just because this piece is taking so much mental power, but at the same time, I feel like it's a good training. I feel like here I was disconnected from the planet for a while. I didn't need anything else than some pencils and a piece of paper. That is amazing. I think regardless of what kind of pencil you use, regardless of what kind of medium, regardless of anything, you can always disconnect yourself from reality with a few strokes, and that's amazing. Now what? What the Maybe I should get better at drawing.